Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Large Blast podcast, the largest blastingest podcast ever to Warhammer 40,000. I'm your host, Stoney, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow hosts, Matt.
Nobody twasses a dwarf.
And my fellow hosts, Welshie.
We always knew they'd come back.
And we like to get things kicked off with a little something cool hobbies goings on, where we take a little look at the goings on that have been happening in some of the hosts' lives. So, Matt, do you want to kick us off this week? Do you want to tell us what's going on with you?
I'll kick it off. Been playing a few more games with my sisters. Played in the Fun Hammer tournament at our local gaming place.
Oh, how did that go?
I realised when I was walking there, it's kind of the same thing that you had when you last played. Well, it's kind of getting at 9 a.m. walking to the dice saloon. I was thinking, actually, I enjoy the prospect of a game, the preparation for a game more than the actual game. I kind of arrived and was like, fuck, I've got to play 3 games of Warhammer with my sisters now. Met a few more people that I hadn't met before, really nice opponents. So that was nice. Some other sisters armies were there. And my third game was sisters versus sisters. So he was kind of showing me some of the ropes,
Nice.
So that was quite a nice game because we were just kind of, it wasn't like we were trying to play to win. We were just playing, and he was like, "Oh, you could do this," So that was quite nice. And I played.
That's in the spirit of Fun Hammer.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So picked up a few things from him. I've got my ideal list now. When you start an army and you write lists and then you start collecting the models, and then when you get it on the tabletop, it's not really how you want to play it, and then you've invested in all the models, and then
you go and buy some more.
Go out and buy more.
Yeah, what a crazy business.
Yeah. So now I've got like my ideal list. I met up with Nick and had a game with him, a 2,000 point game against his 1,000 Sons, which is pretty good. And the sisters are weirdly pretty good anti-psychic army. So I felt like I dealt with that 1,000 Sons psychic phase pretty well.
All those switch off buffs that you've got, or debuffs, are really good.
Yeah, really, really effective. And it was really good in the tournament as well, with like the Tyrannid player managed to stop a lot of his psychic stuff. When I've been painting my sisters. So it's all Adeptus Sororitas at the moment for me.
I'm going to just confess something. I was so on it today that for the first half of what you were talking about there, I was like, I didn't know Matt had multiple sisters and that he was trying to get them into Warhammer 40,000 by taking them to a Fun Hammer. So yeah, we're on point. We're on point today, ladies and gentlemen. But Welshie, what have you been up to?
Well, I got very excited, as you would have heard last episode, about the Tyrannid Codex. Obviously, I've got about 4,000 points of Tyrannids, but that didn't mean I wasn't going to go and buy a load more Tyrannids. I could have just played with the stuff I've got, but instead I went on eBay and I bought a load of Tyrannids I didn't need, and now my painting backlog is even more than it was before. I've got all these gargoyles to paint because I got excited about their rules, and I don't even want to paint them. They're just looking at me from the corner. I've stuck them together, and they're just staring at me. I'll get them done. I want to try some new stuff, obviously, with the new army. But then I was like, now it's up on pre-order, the Codex, and I'm just like, I just can't be bothered with buying this new Codex yet. I feel like I haven't got enough play out of the Gene Stealer Cults one yet. So I think I'm actually gonna hold off for a bit, let the rules kind of quiet down. I'm really excited about something we'll talk about in the news shortly. But that's what I've been doing. I've been staring at a horde of Tyrannid gargoyles and putting off painting them. But I have been painting some Venom Thropes, which I put together, and I really love those models. So hopefully those will be done soon.
Okay, so a bit of light there, but in general, quite an apathetic hobbies goings on. And you know what? I'm no better. I can't help it much. I've not done anything spectacular either. I tried to paint, had a go at my Gene Stealer Cult limo. I had a bit of a spray paint on it, and I saw some areas where I'm like, I don't like that. I'm going to go back over and start having another go at it. But there's no time.
I think it's coming to terms with the post-lockdown real world. Everything's really going again. Do you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of coming out of this period of time where we had loads of time just to do stuff, and now normality is resumed and it's going back into the old swing of maybe getting an hour or so in an evening.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I felt when I was going to the tournament. It was a bit like, oh man, you know, I've kept this whole day free. I don't actually want to play 3 games of Warhammer. I want to go and do something else. I don't want to. And I did kind of think, why am I doing this?
I want to live. I want to escape this prison I call Warhammer and live. Damn it. What's going on? I've got my calendars filled up with Warhammer games and Warhammer stuff.
Is it that time of year?
I want to get out there in the sun and live. My skin is brittle and thin like paper because it's not seen the kiss of sunlight. It's the news. Wow. It's the chuffing news.
Have you heard 6s are now 4s?
It's the news.
Jeep Stealer Limo's back.
News.
Very
So
slow
first and
news.
only piece of news we have on today's show is the new Maelstrom of War, now Tempest of War cards. That's right, the drunk commander is back. He's back and he's pissed and he's ready to tell you what to do and change his mind at the drop of a hat every turn. They make for some fun gameplay. But Welshie, I think you're excited about these and I want you to tell us why.
I am really excited about these because you may have noticed over the past few episodes, gameplay has been getting to me. The endless rules, the endless updates, the power creep. Everything's just making playing a little bit less fun for me. And I think these could be the answer. I think these, you pull them out, you take the mission rule, you take the next card, that's the deployment map. There's a primary mission, and then you have your secondary things to do. Drunk commander, as you say, that can change every turn. I think this is the answer to my fatigue with overly competitive playing, to bring back fun and thematicness to the game for me.
One of the things that annoyed me about the later editions was the amount of fiddling you could do pre-game, where you could be like, oh no, I'm going to use a point to change ends, or I'm going to do this to change something, and kind of, so I preferred the kind of randomness of 7th in that regard. So I'd be glad, I'm all for a bit of drunk commander. It can be as annoying as shit. It's not necessary. It's the opposite of competitive in many ways, but it's really fun to roll with those punches and try to get some impossible cards and discard. Just hang on to one for a little while. You're like, oh, I'm not going to get that. You discard it. You get something else that you can get easily. Whatever. It's good, but it's also can be fucking annoying when they don't go your way and you get just completely unachievable ones every turn or something like that, which is why it's gained the reputation of being drunk commander. But it's a fun game.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I think it will do is stop this. We've talked lots about really competitive lists and how the lists themselves can actually be kind of boring to play against because there's just multiples. Like the Harlequins list that has been kicking ass everywhere is just loads of the same model. And I think playing like this allows you to just bring a bit more random stuff, and maybe you get the good cards to make it work. And I think that is fun. What about you, Matt? Are you looking forward to these?
Yeah, are they exactly like the old cards?
They're very similar kind of concept to the old ones. I think there used to be a couple I remember in that old deck that were basically impossible or game winning. Yeah. And I think they've tried to tone those down a bit and make it a little bit more even between the cards.
How is it different to those open war cards that I've already got?
It also, I think the open war cards are really good as well, actually. But I think the open war cards are there's less to it. So this is the one where the missions change every turn, whereas the open war is just drop down 3 at the start of the game.
I played a few times with those open war cards, so and I like them because they have really random deployment maps, weird mission. Someone gets a sudden death thing if they can achieve it. So these cards look really good. I definitely want to play with them. I like the fact it's all kind of random. And if it changes every turn, then that's good. One
I'm
of
interested. The funny things, thinking about it now, is a lot of the cards that were in 7th edition kind of became the secondary points that you score in games anyway, like having things in the other half of the field and like number of kills and stuff like that. So, I mean, they just kind of shored it up a bit by making sure that everybody scored those points at the end of their turn rather than just if you had the card. But so what's have we got any? If are these basically kind of a rehash of the old cards, or are we going to see any kind of new fancy rules in these cards that might be worth having a look at?
I don't know. They've only previewed like 2 or 3 bits of cards from the deck. I think there's 66 cards in the deck, so it should have a nice variety. I don't think it's going to get old too quickly. And I think, but they are similar. And there's things like, now you have to kill a commander, which is fun because you don't automatically do that. And I like that swing. You're going to have to make a decision to take your army in a completely different direction and hope it works out. But maybe the next turn you're going to get something different. So yeah, I don't know the specifics of the cards yet, but I'm definitely going to get a pack of these.
Codex Creep, it's back and people are super pissed off. The new Eldar stuff has come out and people are fucked off with how great the Harlequins have become all of a sudden. Games Workshop realised they weren't shifting enough Harlequins model and have boosted them through the fucking roof. And now all of a sudden everybody remembers that they love playing Harlequins and they played them all the time. Matt, I think this has got your goat. What's going on?
Yeah, a little bit, but there's rumors of another patch coming through at any moment, that they're going to bring up some more points changes, some more rules changes, and this is like completely unplanned, that they have to rebalance the game. It feels a bit like it's all a little bit out of control.
It is out of control.
Yeah.
When you see some of the stats, who knows the efficiency of what you would hear on YouTube videos and stuff, but when you see some of the stats of people breaking down the Harlequin stuff and how Harlequins do in tournaments and stuff, and just how unbalanced it is now. I saw something where somebody was talking about, we've talked a little while on the show about the Drakari, who was it? The Drakari and Admech, when they were both really strong. Yeah. And I think it was something like 50% of the top guys were either Drakari or Admech. And then they were talking about how, well, if you thought that was bad, now it's 70% of the top guys are all in these fucking same Harlequin list. Yeah. And it's basically just you show up with the same list and it's literally just whoever goes first is probably going to win. And then, 3 turns in, it's over.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about balance at these big tournaments. Like you say, we're looking at 70% plus win rates for the Harlequins. It is always worth reiterating again that a good person with a same list is, different to a bad person with a good list. But it's mental. You've got to imagine that most of the people in these are all fairly good people. Do you know what I mean? It seems unlikely that none of these people are just showing up and are just garbage at playing Warhammer, to be fair. I think it's the speed of fixing. So but even below the Harlequins, there's still the Custodes and Tau are still crazy powerful. And this new Tyranid Codex is going to be crazy powerful. And Toughness 9 Lehman Russes are going to be crazy powerful. The creep is broken. And that's why I'm really excited about the cards we just talked about, because it's just I don't know. It's not right. It's not right.
But with all these patches already, people are talking about, there's rumors of like another Space Marine Codex coming out, which is crazy that in the same edition of the game that there's been 2 Space Marine Codexes come out. Like I don't think that's ever happened before. Normally you only get 1 codex per edition.
You had the supplements in 8th, didn't you? So you had the codex came out, and then ran out, the individual chapter books came out.
So would they want to release a second codex just because so much has been changed since the first codex
and there's
came out?
So
That's
much
crazy.
Stuff is good. I don't know. And it's kind of like, man, that's the codex. Yeah, it's just crazy. And then there's rumors now. We're getting the rumors of the new 10th edition.
Yes,
because it's so out of control. It's like, oh no.
Some cool rumors on 10th edition, actually. Now that you've mentioned it, that I was reading some of the new Horus Heresy edition rules possibly coming across, where so the new Horus Heresy edition, you get to counter activate. So you get to do like after your opponent has done. So not alternating activations. They go, you go, they go, you go. But you do at the end of every phase, you can do one thing, like move one
cool.
unit in a particular
Cool.
direction, like a kind of more historical wargaming, or you can ready a unit for battle if it looks like they're coming for you in that particular place. So that sounds quite a fun mechanic that we've never really experienced before, if that gets pulled across.
That's interesting.
But I don't want 10th. I want a year. I want a year. I want all the codexes to come out. Then I want it all to be fixed, and then a year of no more rules. Just go and enjoy playing Warhammer.
Exactly. What do you think is going on at fucking Games Workshop? Why is it every time they release a codex, they're just like break the fucking system? Do you know what I mean?
The other thing that's fun that people are talking about, which I don't remember happening before, is unnerfing. So because the new codexes are so strong, when, as you just mentioned, when Drakari and Admech were really strong and they got all of these nerfs, they're just going to take them away again.
Right.
To make them back up to the power of
classic. It's one of those drink the poison, but then drink the antidote as well scenarios.
But I thought that was quite good when I read that, because I kind of thought, well, that is a really simple fix. Like ideally we do get a year where all the codexes are out, and at that point surely it should be balanced at that point. And there was stuff that they did to the Admech that I do think they could take back, and essentially they're just saying that what is written in your codex is now back to being the valid rule. Their ability to change those little things, I think that's a good thing. None of this actually matters, because we could just go out and play an open war game. They bring out new codexes. Someone out there is going to try to make it into the hardest list that they could come up with, where they stack all the bonuses of that army and they just hammer everyone else with it. And it's always going to be the competitive players that play like that.
I'll tell you what will be a good test to see whether Games Workshop really up to these shenanigans. And on the squats episode as well, is we should see how powerful these new guys, when they release this new army, what are they called? We're not allowed to call them squats anymore, are we? No. That's not right. It's what they called?
League of Votan.
When these new League of Votan guys come out, if they are just cleaning shop, if they're on an 80%, all of this kind of shit, everybody's cleaning up and to sell these models, then we'll know that Games Workshop's up to some shenanigans. But if they come out and they're mediocre on the board, then we'll know that they've stayed true to what the squats were supposed to be.
Rolling in my 6-4.
So don't call them squats. They don't like it. Now they're the Leagues of Votan. Back from the ancient past days of Rogue Trader, that we've just got news that they're coming back. They're small. They're pissed off. And no one was expecting this. This was something everybody was joking about. It came out as an April Fool's initial reveal, only to be dropped seriously the next day, that Games Workshop had actually been beavering away on making a new squats range. So, what the fuck? What do you guys think about this? What do you
amazing.
Think about
it? Is amazing.
Well, firstly, it's a new faction. This is a new faction. Granted, it existed before, but not since third edition, second into third edition, where they were dropped.
Might even have been second edition. It
got second,
out, so first edition, I think.
Second and then Epic, wasn't it? They were in Epic quite.
They were in Epic, yeah.
So but it feels like a completely fresh faction, and this is big. I mean, when was the last new faction? I suppose the Big Sisters reveal.
The other day. I think that the last new faction might have been Genestealer Cult, or at least the ones that are most similar to this, because obviously they were something from Rogue Trader that was pulled out. And when was that? Like 2016, 15, 14?
It was after Admech. Admech was about 15, but again, it was a range it's existed forever, so it wasn't. It's not like new. That's so exciting. It is exciting. I was really glad when that April Fool's video wasn't actually an April Fool's video. And what a video as well. I really enjoyed it.
Our WhatsApp was hilarious. I was on holiday. I was out the country and I saw our little WhatsApp group kicking off with you saying it. And then you'd be like, oh no, have you seen the date? It's not real. It's not real. And then the next day, I mean, it was everything the marketing team had gone for. But what about the model then? Or do we want to start talking about the model and then talk a bit about the lore?
Yeah, so the new model that's come out, obviously the old squats were a sort of a strange beast when they existed in Rogue Trader, because they were a little bit ill-defined in a way. Like obviously Rogue Trader, they kind of just tried to import everything fantasy into space, essentially, didn't they? Like, so it's got your space orcs, you've got your Eldar for the elves, and then you had your squats for the dwarves, but they just kind of just didn't implement them well enough. They didn't have much character. They're all guys in like kind of dungarees and like
quilted jackets. I'm looking at them and I've got some in front of me here, the actual metal ones, and they've all got weird visors and big kind of quilted clothes.
Yeah, they're kind of like mechanics and
funny
not
shoes.
Right. So they've obviously tried to give them a little bit. Well, they've obviously have given them a lot more flavor on this. One of the things that I'll be completely honest with you, this model, like you guys have both been super positive about this. This has not blown me away at all. Like I've been, I realize that this is just one of their troop choices, and I would like to see kind of like. But this is very characterless to me. The leagues of Voltans, like, I don't know. I just want to see them have a bit more character. This feels like someone's kit bashed. They didn't have the right size legs, so they kind of kit bashed this out of like some old Tau pieces and like.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
because I think there is Tau, but sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is going to be some Tau involvement later on in the podcast as well. I feel the same. But like one of the things that I was kind of interested in seeing, because we've talked a little bit in the past about their robots and stuff like that, so I think that could be a cool addition to it. Is the fact that, you know, they kind of, again, like dwarves of old, like if you've played Skyrim or something and they've got all those weird like steam machines that live in the dungeons, like a kind of a futuristic version of that would be cool. But one of the other things that I thought might give them a little bit more character is they've got this kind of like, see how they've got this kind of like round head plate thing. They've got like a kind of a very where their head is. If they had a kind of a round visor, so they look kind of like a deep sea diver or something like that, I thought like, okay, maybe that might give them a bit more character. And then they've got a bunch of robots hanging around and stuff. But this has not excited me, to be honest with you.
I completely agree. The concept of a new army and bringing back the squats has got me really excited. The model. Not so much. I mean, I see it as a funny. It's half a space marine. It's got like the knee pads of the Gene Stealer cults. It's got like bits of everything they've just chucked on.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a model. Kit bash. It does look like a kit bash.
I mean, I keep getting excited, and then I see the model, and it doesn't excite me at all. But the idea of them bringing this back and how they're going to work in the lore, that's what's getting my blood up. That's exciting me a lot.
For me, there's bits on this model that really stand out. Like I like that I haven't seen a gun like this before. It doesn't look like anything else. It's clearly some fancy squat tech. I like that there's that disc on the back of the gun is basically the same as you get on Tau, because there's going to be some Tau lore we'll talk about in a bit, I reckon. And then the other thing that this model says that people have been rumoring and talking about online is the feet look like a robot. Are the squats just going to be AI? I'll let you think about that before we move on. What if the squats are all robots now?
Okay, so squats history, squats lore. They've been about since Rogue Trader, which means some of their lore is pretty mental. I'm sure it's going to get a bit of a redo. But yeah, so squats lore. What do you guys think about this? They started off as they're adhumans, aren't they? Yeah. So basically they evolved by living on a planet that was so full of gravity that it shrunk them down to tiny little leagues of Voltans. And then they got really good at mining, basically. Right?
Yeah, these like right in the center of the galaxy, I think, these really barren rock worlds that they went and made caverns and things underground, straight out of Dwarves and Lord of the Rings, you know, like Khazad Dûm kind of empire under the stone, which is very cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're straight up. A lot of it's straight up stolen from just dwarf lore, isn't it? Because they traded with like Eldar and Orcs. They were like, yeah, it's all cool. We trade with Eldar and Orcs. They're both our friends. We trust both of them. Nothing untoward's going to happen there.
And then it does.
And then it did.
Because the Orcs attack them, and then the Eldar are like, yeah, we're not going to help you. So they're just left on their own. But the worlds that they're on, you know, initially colonized by standard humans, aren't they? I think it was about 20,000 years previously. But then they're isolated when Slaanesh is born, right? That's the birth of Slaanesh and the warp storms. meant that they were completely separated for millennia, to develop their own ways.
Get on with it.
The stuff I really like about them is they're scientists and they're engineers in the law. They don't follow any of the like imperial creed. They're like real scientists. There's no weird admech praying to cogs. There's no like librarian style anointment of stuff. They're just proper scientists and really good with their hands and engineering, which I think is really cool. I think that'll push them into conflict potentially with the Imperium as it stands.
That is cool.
Yeah.
They do have kind of librarians though, don't they? And they don't know that they're librarians until they just basically outlive everybody else in their generation, and then like they're like, oh shit, you've lived longer than like twice as long as everybody
They're
else.
called ancestor lords, I think. There
you go.
The beardy guys, like beardy wizard fellas.
Yeah.
But the normal squats live for 300 years apparently.
Oh,
and those are the ones that don't live very long.
I hope Games Workshop bring out like a special edition Bugman's beer. Oh, they've got to do that. If you're listening, Games Workshop, bring out a bespoke model.
I feel like they're trying to like lean away from the whole dwarfs in space thing. It's kind of like, like being a whole part of it.
Yeah,
they're just kind of like, they're desperately trying to be like, no, they're not called space dwarfs anymore. They're called Voltans. And they, one of the things about what was the ad humans in the initial like Rogue Trader days, they got way more love. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but they used to have like beast men was like an army and Rogue Trader.
Beastmen, the models exist in Blackstone Fortress now.
You get shit.
Yeah.
And
that's going to be the next
Beastmen.
one. Like another 10 years, they're going to be releasing fucking Beastman army for 40k.
And wouldn't that be cool if it was just an abhuman codex where you could mix and match?
That would be sick.
Yeah, I reckon that.
Fishmen.
I think
the Fishman will be back as well.
Yeah. I think that's why they're not. I don't know. I think this is why they're not called squats. I think they're the league, for me, League of Voltan, as well as giving me ideas of 1920s sci-fi films. And then so people in second edition collected squats. There was a model range for 40k and there was a model range in Epic. And then they just overnight stopped.
The Tyranids ate them. They just stopped, and the law was that the Tyranids just ate all of them. They just got eaten, and then they were completely dropped. But they're really cool because I think they can do a lot now with the modern, like how good Black Library is now and how in depth it is with the whole idea that they're part of the Imperium, but they're not under the control of the Administratum. They kind of have this kind of free will as society, which is really super rare. Like there's nothing that almost like a kind of Persian Empire view of things, where it's the only thing the Imperium was like, yeah, you kind of just carry on your own way as long as you're, providing us with troops and cool shit.
Did we not? I think either we all spoke about ages ago, like 2 years ago, I swear, or there was a rumor, I don't know, but we definitely spoke about having a non-imperial aligned human faction other than the Imperium in space. I swear we've had this conversation where we thought it'd be cool if there was another alternative to the Imperium around. So that's quite interesting.
I think that definitely one of the things about the squats when it comes in terms to like partnering up with other factions and things like that, I think that's quite interesting. Like that you could take a detachment of squats in an Imperial Guard unit, or one in like a Elder unit or a Tau unit or something like that. So I mean, I think that might be quite interesting.
And also Chaos squads. The stuff I was reading, reviewing this earlier, there was a load of stuff about them in Horus Heresy times, where loads of squat planets sided with Horus. There was a big split in the squats as well. So that's some cool army potential there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Chaos Dwarfs were one of the craziest armies in old school fantasy. Yeah. They were cool as shit.
Yeah, one of my favorite Blood Bowl teams as well. Yeah. The Chaos Dwarfs. Really good.
So we've got a picture up that we're all looking at of the Epic model range, because I've only ever seen 28 photographs of the 28mm squats. But did the army have anything bigger than a normal infantryman?
So
like tanks?
I mean, in terms of what we might see coming forward, they had thud guns, which were like artillery pieces. They had trikes. that they would ride. That they had metal
the
trikes. They had the hilarious Exo
trainers.
armor,
Oh
which
yeah,
was
that's
like just ridiculous. But I think that those were the only things that were within the 28 mil range, and then everything else was represented by Epic, like the land train.
Yeah.
They kind of made a bit more of an impression in Epic than they did. I think that they lived on a bit longer, like got cancelled going over to second edition, but obviously Epic continued to run, so you could still play squat armies in. I mean, obviously that's set in the year. I think Epic's set in the year 30,000, isn't it? So you know, it's more a old hammer game. So you know, it makes more sense for the squats to be there before they were like, oh, you know, Tyranids came and ate everybody or whatever. They had some crazy cool machines in Epic. Like they had a blimp that they could fly around in. That might be quite cool. And again, it's funny. They've got that Age of Sigmar dwarfs army that fly around in a blimp and kind of some way look like a failed pitch for the squats that was kind of eaten up by Age of Sigmar, you know. So you know, there's already kind of a squats army that exists, but the land train as well. We've got to talk about the fucking land train. Like this will be the second new faction. If squats come out and they're like proper miney, like they've got pickaxes and all of that kind of shit, then that's going to be the second new faction. If Genestealer cults were the ones before this, that's a mining planet type thing. So you know, I've mentioned how I'm annoyed with the amount of miners that are coming out from Games Workshop in their new factions. But if there's ever going to be a mining planet where they properly lean in and everything, and they've got pickaxes and all the high hos and all that kind of shit, I want to see some like, you know, guys with like big drill arms and things like that, and you know, that kind of stuff.
Some of those. I think that Exo armor. I just can't wait to see the revamps of these models that are so old and chunky, and I've painted a few of these, and the solid metal lumps of wheels that are on the trike, and just how much better it's all going to look. The funny little fat Terminators.
The current revamp stuff was, I mean, I know we've only seen one model and one picture, but it does seem weird. It seems really off-brand to me. It's all very shiny. Like, I know we talked about them maybe being friends with the Tau and stuff, but like, I kind of want them, like you say, I want everything to have a bit more of a handmade feel. Like you're saying, like, oh, they're tech priests or whatever. You know, it's going to be like sawed out and like, you know, with some like elegant kind of engraving on it, or like, you know, handmade, old school crafty shit. But instead of this kind of new school, when they did the reveal thing and they did the, you know, because they did it so you like there was a knock on the door and they look left and right and they look down and there's the squat there and he's got like a shiny new armor and a plasma gun. I was like, who's this fucking dandy Ponce? You know, where's the squats?
Yeah, I do miss. It doesn't look like they're doing the crazy heads like the garden gnome look of the original one. They just seem to have kind of normal.
They are. The other ones are still. I mean, you know, you've got like a dude with a beard and all of that. They kind of still look like a garden gnome. It's just in really fancy high tech armor, which is bizarre.
Oh, just give me a land train. That's all I want.
Exactly. I want them in conductors' uniforms. I want them ready to get on this fucking land train.
Yeah, I think they're going to be great. The heavy weapons team is something that I've been trying to get my hands on eBay for a while, to get the heavy weapons team, because I've got this dream of, I've got 7 squats now of the original metal ones, and I've always had this little dream of having them as my Inquisitor Cotiaz like acolytes. So when he comes on the board, he's got like Cotiaz and the 7 squats around him. So hopefully this will allow me to add some more bits. But what about, I mean, you're right though, Matt, there isn't much like between the epic scale, huge cannon platform and land train and the 28 mil. I mean, they're going to have some other stuff. I mean, what do you think would be cool models outside of just the walking squat? You know, what are we going to get?
The airship, the little funny airships, that would be cool. Like attack helicopters, but kind of attack airships.
Yeah.
One thing we sort of touched on a bit earlier is the fact that they're tinkerers. They're tinkers, aren't they? They like make robots and things, which is something that the you know, obviously the Mechanicus is all the robots in the Mechanicus are like ancient relics that they're not allowed to make new ones of, whereas squats aren't bound by that. And I think there's even those like, there's those Blackstone Fortress robots that came out. I think those long kind of. They look a little bit suspiciously similar to me.
Well, there's
definitely the color scheme.
There's rumors. There's rumors about the Men of Iron coming back with this, and that's also kind of maybe it's like a league rather than one race. There's like a few races that are all together. Yeah, there's definitely rumors of the Men of Iron coming back.
And then, in a way, what I'd quite like to see is what I'd like to see if you're playing a new squats army is you've got a couple of troops units of squats, like a very small actual squat number, and then and they're all basically looking after these crazy war machines that they're bringing. So they give a bonus to this like crazy robot thing that's like stood up 2 stories tall and like the Iron Giant, and something like that. And
that would definitely be like, and they wouldn't have to retcon the fact that they've all been eaten as hard if there's only like a few troops to lots of robots.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that might be how they survived, how this like brave few squats bunked up in some bunker and made a bunch of robots to kill off some Tyranids.
The other thing I thought was interesting about the great video where they introduced us to the squat was that he's in some sort of like Space Hulk, or there's like a group of abandoned of like starships. It's kind of like they're putting all random bits of technology together and building stuff and not being bound by the AdMech rules. It's like they're salvaging stuff. It's like the salvagers in like deep space. And
that's why I kind of like
his
that
armor
model.
is kind of like a spaceman armor. So I wonder whether they're going to be like nicking all this technology and like building their race up again. I don't know.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Did you guys read this, the Demiurge thing? So, because it's interesting, right? Because Tau didn't exist at all when squats were in the game previously. But I was reading that where the squats kind of disappeared, they did kind of come back at some point, or something very like them called the Demiurge. And it was to do with the Demiurge were a Xenos race that would build the Tau ships for Battlefleet Gothic. So there was these things that this race called the Demiurge would be really good with the technology and help the Tau build ships that would be part of Battlefleet Gothic. And when you read about this Demiurge, they're basically squats. So it's almost like a little mini comeback for the squats that happened when Tau came out. But I mean, how do you think they'll fit into current 40k lore? Gone are the days where you can sit down with an orc and do some trading. It is a different place now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think there'll definitely be, nothing is fluffy and there's no friends in 40k. So even though these guys are definitely going to have links, like we say, they might be able to fight alongside Eldar or Tau or something like that. They've also been fucked over in the past. So I think there's going to be some kind of lore around them being like fiercely independent and very untrusting of people.
Primarch Billiman's back, so Papa G, and now they're like, we've been here. I mean,
we do joke about like, oh yeah, they've come back from the dead or whatever. But I mean, like, fucking hell, everybody joked about fucking squats coming back. No one was really expecting I mean, I guess it was one of those things where everybody thought they might come back, but like give it another 15 years or something. It's kind of, it has got me wondering a little bit, like what's left in Rogue Trader for Games Workshop to keep pulling on. They're going to have to start getting on the really obscure stuff. We're going to see the fucking Catachan Face Eater, the Tau guy, before too long.
I bet League of Voltan could include Zotes, couldn't it?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Like, I think there's gonna be like, they've like what made them devolve in the first place. Like, there's been warp storms, they've been hidden away from everyone, or they've been trapped in the warp or something, and they've come out. And I think they're going to be like, they're salvaging loads of shit in space, and they've been like building up, and now they're like, we're back, baby. We're like, the chaos has got too powerful. We're coming back to kind of level the playing field a little bit for humanity, but also we're going to fight humanity, because the Imperium would want to destroy this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Imperium's very different to that very, like I say, Persian Empire way of just letting them carry on worshipping their own thing. I mean, the Black Templars or the Indomitus Crusade is not like that anymore.
No.
So what is the response to the Imperium going to be?
Gilliman might be like, oh, actually, we need an ally. But the High Lords of Terror would probably be like, we need to go and burn them. They're heretics. They don't even follow the Cult Mechanicus.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, there could be, some kind of tentative truth with them because everybody needs supplies and stuff, and these guys are out there mining all this stuff and whatnot. And at the end of the day, if that's making more bullets to make the guns go dakka, then that's what everybody wants, isn't it? So
yeah,
I mean, I don't think that there's no way they're going to be welcomed into the Imperium with open arms at this stage. Like you say, Gilliman's already got too many skeletons in his closet. The last thing he needs is to be like, oh, by the way, I've let the fucking squats back in. So there's definitely going to be some fucking shenanigans. But it's, as we said, it's going to be very interesting to see where these lie. Like, can you use them with Tau? Can you use them with Eldar? Can you use them with Imperium? Can you use them with all of them? That's going to be interesting. Or is this going to be the first super open? Can you use them with orcs even? Maybe everything except for fucking Tyranids, because obviously they hate the Tyranids. So maybe there is going to be some kind of weird new rules in that regard with these guys, which would be interesting.
I think that would be cool. I want it to be true, but I think the Games Workshop has moved more and more away from mixing codexes and books together to the point where there's not even any Brood Brothers units in the Genestealer Cult Codex, and that should be kind of there's a separate book. I suppose you can still play Genestealer with the Brood Brothers rules, but you need the two separate books. Mixing factions in competitive play is getting harder and harder. But it would be really cool if you could just drop a unit of these into literally any army, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to remember they're not planning on dropping this whole army tomorrow. No. Like you say, they've already got plans brewing for 10th or whatever. So maybe 10th really is a big free for all, mixing factions together and all this kind of stuff. So who knows what they're going to do with this and how it's going to go. But one of the things I would be very excited about is to see some Forge World stuff from these guys. Like we say, the land train, some big fucking resin, some big lumps of heavy resin on the table. That'll be cool. In a nutshell then, boys, what do we think a squat army is going to look like when it comes out? Mark these words now, listeners, so you can see how wrong we are when they finally do come out. But what do you think it's going to look like on the field?
Land trains.
Just all land trains.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get maybe 3 squats, each one driving the land train, and each land train pulling more land trains. And if it's not, then I'm going to be really disappointed.
You think that maybe Games Workshop have signed a deal with Hornby train sets and they're just going to sell a train that goes around and drives around?
I'd
Any
like
model
it to be
knocks over counts as a minus 10 damage or whatever.
I'd like the carriages to be magnetic, where you just keep sticking a next carriage on with a magnet.
Oh yeah.
That'd be great. No, blimps, hopefully very few troops, hopefully lots of robots, some crazy technology. I love the idea that the army might potentially have guns from all the other factions in it, or bits of guns from all the other factions. I think that could be really cool. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
Oh yes, that would be cool. So you could have a group of squats with bolters and a group of squats with shuriken cannons and some with some fucking that would be cool.
Or their own version of weapons that are a mismatch of parts that they've taken from the high tech races.
Slightly shitter versions of because they don't want to sell the squats the good stuff. And
those tricycles looked cool from the old range. So some proper fancy tricycle things.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Some fast attack.
Yeah.
Cool.
I kind of don't want them to do a main battle tank because I think it could end up looking a bit too Imperium, which is why the land trains are interesting because it's just totally different, really. They could do some really fun stuff with that.
It would be interesting to see how they do it. I mean, I know we've only seen one model, but he was all done up in his fancy new, Master Chief style armor. So it would be more like a bullet train now, the land bullet train than the land old school steam engine.
That yellow body armor, the Terminator squat with massive axes.
Oh yeah, I want to see some of those guys. How that's
going to go down. We need some axes in there.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Cool.
They really,
Well, I want to see some really outrageous characters. I want to see some of their special characters, some of their named characters being, I know that they're maybe trying to move away from this fantasy dwarfs in space kind of thing, but I want to see their their main characters being carried on shields, drinking beer, going full on like old school fantasy dwarf style, big fucking beard, all, with all weird plaits in that mean different things in their family or some shit, something like that, you know. So I'd like to see that.
When I think of dwarves, I always think of the old helicopter that they had in fantasy and the cannons. They was, especially the Chaos Dwarfs, used to have like outrageously fat cannons. They should have stuff like that. So they don't like they just have massive artillery, like just oversized artillery. That'd
be awesome. So it looks like you've literally bought like a bog roll, like to the battlefield, like on some wheels. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we all hope for good things for the squats then.
Welcome back, everybody, to this exciting part of the show called the Random Topic Generator, where we generate a topic randomly using the company dice. Welshie, have you got the company dice?
Of course I do. Here they are.
Prepare to roll the company dice and generate a topic randomly.
It's a 2. What is the most impractical piece of armor in 40k?
Well, yeah, most impractical piece. There's a lot of flashy pieces of armor out there, a lot of impractical pieces.
I think I might have mentioned this at some point in the past, but I think the Death Watch shoulder pads are awful because they have that flared bit at the top that you can't see left. If you're in the Death Watch, you can't see to your left because the shoulder pad has an extra bit that goes like as high as your head. So if you're looking over your Death Watch shoulder, you can't see anything. That's pretty impractical.
Portable wall you're carrying around with you over your left shoulder.
I think the custodian guard helmets, they're huge and they just look really impractical. No wonder half of them have got their heads out.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. They've got that like that plume of hair on the top as well. That's got to be like a windsock if it's a blustery day.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think the same with the Matt, you might know what they're called, but the funny broom things that are the wrong way round on the Ultramarines' heads, not the ones that are like the moments, but at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Like, what's that all about?
It's what they use to clean their boots when they're going back to base. They wipe their boot on it. It's boot
on
cleaner.
each other's. Yeah.
Oh, so it's kind of practical in a way.
Yeah, it's also a paintbrush when they need to decorate their barracks.
Oh, it's handy. Or if someone makes a mess, you can sweep. You use that and another helmet. And you can sweep up. They are the tiniest of the Space Marines.
Yeah, you don't even take the helmet off. They just pick up one of their Space Marines and use them as a big broom.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the models that are next to me where I sit here, and one's just caught my eye, and that's old Inquisitor Greyfax's big wide-brimmed hat that's got a lit candle on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
that's pretty impractical.
Yeah,
a lot of them have candles on. That's got like surely in the heat of battle, that shit's going to get fucking blown out. That ain't no good.
And last episode we spoke about the Redemptionists from the.
Yeah, they've literally got a fire on their head.
Fire heads.
Oh, yeah. You know what else is kind of impractical, I'm going to say, is the Night Lords. They're all good and everything, but all that flesh and those big wings on their helmets, that's also got to be a wind trap in itself, and getting through doors and things. It's like having, again, if you've got big wings on the back of your helmet, you can't really look up because you're going to knock them on your shoulder pads and all your other gubbins that's going on. All your other bits of flesh that you've got hanging off you. So maybe that, or like to be fair, any part of Terminator armor looks incredibly impractical for almost everything.
Well, there are loads of options there, guys.
Welcome back, everybody, to this last part of the show, the Lords of Law quiz, where I pit Matt and Welshie against each other in a quiz to find out who is the Lord of Law. And sometimes these are good and sometimes these are bad. So don't get your expectations up too high. Are you guys ready?
You haven't fucking got one, have you?
I have.
You haven't done it.
I have. I've done a Lords of Law quiz. I've definitely done one. So you guys ready? You guys are ready for the Lords of Law, right?
Always ready.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, just what would be your Warhammer 40,000 name? Best one wins.
My God, so original. What would be our 40k name? Welshie.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
Oh,
I'm
strong.
going in with Matakas, which is like a ultramarine. Yeah, I'll be an ultramarine. Or
Ultramarine.
what's the Templar? What's the Templar names?
They're all
What's that
German.
Yeah.
Hans.
Hans.
Matakas Hans. Hans
Matakas
Matakas.
Hans.
Matakas Hans. Oh, well,
Hans von Matakas.
just call the Lords of Law now. It's over.
Come on. Well, there's got to be one for Welshie. Welshicus. Welshicus give uppercus. Easily, Welshicus easily give uppercus.
I'll take that.
All right, cool. Well, Welshie, you win this week's Lord of Law.
Yeah.
It turns
Oh.
out. Can you believe it?
But Stoney, can you answer your own question, please?
Oh, I can't, Matt. Which means, in a surprise twist of fate, you have won the Lords of Law quiz.
Excellent.
All right, thank you everybody for listening to this, the Large Blast podcast. We'll see you again next time. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. We might have had some sleep for the next one.